Let's talk about last week in Michigan Tech. Obviously, emotional week. You guys came out Saturday, played extremely well, had a couple-goal lead a couple times. What's the toughest thing about holding a 2-goal lead?
I think sometimes it's easier to play catch-up when you're behind, especially after the first period when you're up 2 goals. You got another 40 minutes to play. You start playing a little bit more with desperation or urgency. You start playing on your toes. And then, when you're ahead, sometimes you just don't want to make mistakes when you have an inexperienced team. But in saying that, you got to give Tech credit. They found a way in their building to come back and win it. But we had chances, actually, I thought, to make it a 3-goal lead, and we didn't convert. But nonetheless, great game. I thought on Saturday night, the positives were we got 3 goals, which is difficult to do. We won the special teams battle, and we won the face-off battle. I thought they got some goals that maybe we could have taken back, but again, some of our defensive breakdowns, which we got to continue to fix here, should certainly help us out a little bit. And then Friday night, that was the most chances I think we've generated in the game this year. I think the chances were 18-18. I think we had 12 in the third where we had a chance to convert. We didn't. They had 2 power play goals and they only got 1 5-on-5 goal. So they got the shutout, but at the same time, when you're in your arena, your home ice advantage, you got to be able to score 1 5-on-5.
You talked about that in the Blue Line Luncheon about playing in front of all those fans, over 4,000 people here at the Berry. Were the guys big, bright-eyed because they got to see what the Berry was like full?
You know what? We talked a little bit about that. We want our guys to embrace that, and I thought they did. I didn't think we played nervous. I thought our puck poise was really good. We played really good in the O-zone, and so I didn't think the crowd affected it. I thought it affected it in a positive way where we're able to play probably one of our best games this year. So we got to continue to build on that, and we just got to get better in the D zone. I think that's our priority in our rush defense. If we do that, I think that'll certainly drop the shot count.
On Saturday, you mentioned you won the special teams battle. It was Shyiak had 2 of the power play goals. Did you figure anything out lineup-wise with those guys and the success they had? Alt Richter with a couple assists as well.
Well, you're always tinkering with such a inexperienced young group. You got to find some type of chemistry, and that was probably one of the best lines on the ice that night with Alt Richter, Shyiak, and Bolduc. And they all bring a different element, and it was nice for them to be rewarded. And they're in the right spots, the right times, but at the same time, you got to be able to finish plays off, and all 3 of them did.
And back-to-back rivalry weekends.
Yeah.
You got Lake State this weekend. What's the difference in your mind, having played against these schools back in the day, between the Tech rivalry and the Lake State rivalry?
Yeah, it was different when I was a player. We didn't play. Lake Superior wasn't in our conference. They're in the CCHA. We were in the WCHA, and a little bit as a coach too. We moved over, I think, 3 years, so I didn't get to experience that rivalry as much. But again, they're in the UP. It's bragging rights. We should have good crowds again. They're only 2.5 hours up the road. And you know what? They're league conference games, and we've got to find a way to continue to get better like we have been. But at the same time, you want to be able to fit some wins in there. And this is an opportunity for us to build on some of our mistakes last weekend versus Tech, get better in that area, but still able to create some of the offense that we did.
Is the Father Capo Cup still a thing, or is it just for bragging rights now, or is there still a trophy involved?
I don't know. Actually, nobody's filled me in. There might be, but not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
There used to be at some point.
Yeah.
I know that for sure. You guys would have a
I'm still
better.
going to call it the Capo Cup.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm being told yes, it's still a
Okay.
thing.
There you go.
There.
Yep. He was a good man.
Yeah, but one of the forwards, Milburn, has been just really impressive. When you have a talented guy like that who's a forward winger, defensively, how do you prepare for somebody who's with that kind of talent?
Yeah, you just can't give him time and space. If you give him time and space, talented players are going to manipulate that space to make a play and get their feet going and play with speed. And he's one of those guys. So, the best cure for that is playing the O-zone, force them to defend. And when they're defending, that means the puck's not on their stick plate. So, obviously, we got to be aware when he's on the ice and not give up too many chances when he is on the ice.
Coach, let's talk about last week. Ferris State comes in, second-ranked team in the nation, and last year it was 78-3. This year I thought you guys played them extremely tough. It was 14-2 at one point. Great special teams play by Vince Martin. I guess let's start with that play. Let's talk about Vince and creating offense for your football team and getting 2 points on the board.
Yeah, sure. No, I thought we did a good job adjusting. I think they had shifted over, and we just adjusted to it. And Vince was super quick and, hit the gap and just came right in there and did a great job to block the punt and just create some excitement, some morale and some momentum, and did a really good job to just kind of get us back enthusiastic about what was going on there.
Let's talk about that first half, because it was 7-0. They had a scoop and score from 56 yards. You guys, on their first possession of the game, were able to get a turnover on the 4-yard line. So you get a turnover and you were able to get a safety. I guess, how do you build upon that?
Yeah, I think right now we've got to be able to kind of break out from, the good solid starts that we've had, and then not allowing the momentum to kind of shift away from what we're doing. And we've got to be able to build on it. We've got to be able to see the good. We've got to be able to stay resilient. We've got to continue to just play one play at a time. And I think sometimes the mentality might start to get away from us. We're stuck right now in this place where wanting and wishing and waiting and hoping that maybe something good can happen at times, instead of going out and initiating and taking and attacking and being relentless to it and making it happen. And so we've got to be able to break through that and get to the other side. And I think it's just a matter of time. We got to continue to experience those successes and be able to eliminate the negativity in our minds and just our emotions, and be able to continue to move forward in a positive way.
How do you get that message? You going on the road the last 2 weeks, just, how do you get that message across to stay in it?
Yeah.
Going on the road,
Yeah.
like I said, to close this thing
For
out.
sure. That is the $1 million question, right, Kev? We are, I think it's a constant coaching. We got to coach messages of belief and positivity and optimism and energy, and you got to continue to take them back to what we've done well. And there were 40 plus clips of a playlist that I showed them in our team meeting to just highlight what we really did well, and it was very intentional. It wasn't just kind of stalemated plays, or maybe we kind of stumbled upon these plays and they just kind of were handed to us. I mean, it was like really good effort plays, good technique plays, things that we actually are doing well. And I think we just got to continue to see those, believe in those, and we got to just be more consistent to make sure that we're doing them for the whole entire 4 quarters.
I know Duke Chauvel's played his 3 games. You want to get him a look to see what he had to bring going in the next couple of years. You have also played a couple of freshman running back as well. Who are some of the other players that you want to take a look at before the season's done?
Well, we kind of made a list of guys that maybe have 3 games to be able to use up on that. Kyla Carr is a guy that we tried to get in on Saturday. He got a few reps there. Be great to be able to get him some game experience. Trevor Thoyerkoff is a guy that has 1 more game left that we'd like to really make sure we use that appropriately. I think he's a guy that can really do a couple different things in terms of positionally on offense, and so we're just trying to make sure that we're able to use him correctly on that side of things. I think there's a couple other guys, but what happens is too, you want to be careful that you're not putting a guy out there just to kind of give him experience, because you want him to be competitive, you want him to be prepared, you want him to be ready. And so we got to do a good job of just managing that and being able to decide when those reps are appropriate and how to work them in the game.
There was an injury last week to Aiden Horde. He came out after his completion to Michael Love, and Billets came in and played extremely well. I guess, what's the quarterback situation? You mentioned Thoyerkoff earlier. Any chance of looking at him at quarterback?
Right. No, he's. I think he's always got a chance. He's athletic and he's very competitive, and so he's definitely continually taking snaps for us in practice, and just trying to work him in to see what that's going to look like. I really felt good about Jake. I mean, I think he did a great job with coming in and being thrown right in there without having a lot of snaps this year to bank and to pull from. So I feel really comfortable about what Jake did, and I'm really proud that he was able to step up into that opportunity. And we'll still see. You know, we're kind of day to day right now, and we'll see kind of what this week brings to be able to see what it looks like going into Saturday.
Offensively, you guys have scored 10 or less the last 3 weeks. Since you shifted to the option, you know, there's been some success, especially moving the ball.
Yeah.
What's the obstacle for you guys to find the end zone?
Yeah, I think part of it is we've got to be able to find a way to continue to, make better reads at the quarterback position. I think we miss some reads that do not allow us to move the ball further than what we have. We've got to be able to capitalize better on, third and fourth down. We have not been great in that area. And I think turnovers, turnovers is really, we had 2 of them that really just hurt us. The first one where we lost it and, the play was reviewed. Certainly a discrepancy type of play. And, but here's the thing. The coaching point is we can't fumble the ball. It shouldn't be on the ground. And so we got to do a better job of taking care of the ball. I think that's been actually a big hindrance offensively that we've got to do a better job in. That can it gains us possessions, and it obviously takes possessions away from them. And so that can really create a lot of opportunities for us that I think are hidden right now that we're overlooking.
I want to talk about Wednesday, though, because that was – you good, Kobe?
Oh, yeah.
Just a marathon of a match that you guys thought you lost at one point.
Seriously.
Just how did the girls stay in it and end up putting up those crazy numbers? I know it goes 5 sets, it goes to 20, but that was just a crazy match to be a part of, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was, through my playing and coaching career, by far the longest match I've ever been a part of, and the most anxiety-inducing, for sure. It was one of those things where we were inches from losing that match, and if that match happened here, we would have lost it without challenge review. So one of those things going forward that's going to be great to have, but I think our girls did a great job of keeping a lot of level head and just fighting through every single point. Our defense was absolutely relentless, and then obviously at the end of the match, you go to your clutch player, Jacqueline, she got it done, so it was awesome. It was so much fun.
How do you turn around from the match like that so long and probably taxing on a lot of their bodies to come out Friday and Saturday and get 2 more wins?
Yeah, so we had a light day on Thursday, and we sat down and film and watched the 5th set and just kind of analyzed the parts of it that were good, the parts we can still improve on, and then went into Friday playing an opponent that's a little bit unconventional and just sends the ball back like crazy. So another match that was going to take a lot of stamina and a lot of heart to get through, and they did a great job doing that.
How did Wednesday's win really help you for Saturday going 5 sets there? Because you don't see it where you get 3 games in a week and then 2 of them go 5 sets.
Seriously. I think it prepared us well for the long haul. We talked to our girls a lot about having competitive stamina, and I think all 3 matches last week kind of were a proponent of that. And same thing with Parkside, a little bit more unconventional, really scrappy team, send the ball back. We know we're going to be playing long rallies. We know it's going to be a really tough match, and they did a great job, again, sticking through it in the end there.
As you guys move forward, obviously the national tournament is on the horizon. The more you win, the chances of getting there are a lot greater.
Yeah.
But when you look at your GLIAC, and I know you went 5 sets with Purdue Northwest earlier this year. You guys like going 5 sets?
We sure do.
How is this really helping towards the GLIAC tournament and then potentially the national tournament?
Yeah, so I think each team we play in the GLIAC provides us with tools in our pocket of how to be better. Like Parkside, for example, on Saturday showed us that we're not that great at picking up tips on defense, and now we have that experience, we learned from it, we're going to move forward from it. We've played a lot of tough opponents like St. Cloud at the beginning of the year, and I think that's a big one that stands out to our team because it shows you can beat anybody on any given day if you work really hard, and they just work really, really hard. And I think going into this next week, obviously we got Ferris on Friday, #1 team in the country. Everything to gain, nothing to lose. So we're just really excited for that opportunity, and the girls are hungry for it.
I will say on Saturday, there was a lot of service errors. There was a lot of unforced errors on your part.
Yeah.
Is that because of maybe fatigue late in that game or late in the
Yeah,
match?
I'm sure it was. And something we talked about with the girls too yesterday in film actually was just staying disciplined in those moments when you're tired and doing the jobs you're supposed to do, not going out of your way to do someone else's job. Just take care of business on your part, know the person next to you is going to do it, trust them, and just keep moving through. And I think ultimately we were able to push through that in the 5th set against Parkside.
I had to laugh yesterday when Haugen, Barlow, Smith get the GAP weekly awards.
Yep.
And it's just like, that's what you actually see on the court is Haugen, Barlow, Smith. That rhythm that they're in, obviously they're not the only ones doing it
Right.
on every point, but those three, what kind of rhythm are you seeing from the bench?
Yeah, so Liesel had a huge week. Like, she, struggled the week before a little bit on the road, came in and just, played outstanding. The best I've ever seen her play through 3 matches, which is awesome. And when your libero's playing like that, passing the ball for you like that, obviously Allie's going to have a lot of windows to set our offense and use every tool we got, which is great because most of the time we've got about 5 hitters on the floor, which is really fun as a setter to be able to run. And then obviously you have Jackie, who's super experienced and can always get the job done when we need it at the end of the match. But also we have experience through like Megan Meyer. She had awesome matches this whole week too. She got her 1,000th kill on Wednesday. Same thing, Kaylee Barlich with her 1,000th dig. So we have a lot of veteran players and young players really getting the job done.
Yeah, Casey mentioned you guys being in a really good spot, not only the conference, but in the region. For your girls and players that haven't been a part of, last year you weren't quite in this situation. So for those that don't have the experience of being at the top of the conference like you are now, what's the approach as a staff to build them up into the postseason?
Yeah, I think we talk a lot about having to respect every opponent. We struggled a little bit earlier this year with just being able to close out matches against opponents that we should be beating on paper. So one of those things is treating every opponent like they're a Ferris State, like they're Grand Valley, like they're St. Cloud, and just respecting that anybody can beat anybody on a given day, and obviously why not us? So
Let's talk about your basketball team. A lot of new faces this year. I guess talk about how everyone's gelling after last year's team and a team that went to the field of 32.
Yeah, we're working hard and we're working together and we're figuring some things out. When you got 6 freshmen, they're still thinking a lot and figuring some things out, which is okay. You're gonna have that, but yeah, we're really gelling together and we're coming together, but we're still learning at the same time.
How tough is it to go on the road your first couple of games and play back to back, especially with a new team?
It's gonna be interesting. We'll find out hopefully this weekend. But at the same time, it's always fun and exciting to have that first road trip and to everybody come together and hang out in the hotel and kind of have that time, that team time, which I think is huge. But it's going out there and yeah, you got 2 games back to back, but you're only worried about the first one. That's all we're worried about right now is Thomas More, and we're trying to figure out how we can get a dub when we get out there.
What's it gonna take to adjust? Obviously you've been through preseason and everything, but not having McKaylee Kuhn, scoring wise, how do you expect, offensively you guys to play a little bit different without her this season?
Oh, we're going to play different without her for sure. She was a very good player who we could go to at any point in time when we needed something. But at the same time, we got some good people back who did a lot of scoring for us last year too. They got to do a little bit more, and I think we got some new additions that are going to help us with the scoring. Obviously, we're not going to be running the same stuff because a lot of it was through McKaylee and what she could do for us. So it's going to be a little different with what we're doing and how we're doing, but Anna also brought a lot too to our team and defensive end. So we're still making those adjustments and figuring some things out, but it's always good to get, those first couple games under your belt to kind of see a little bit more. Obviously, practice is great, but once people get under the lights and game time, it changes a little bit. So figure out the emotions and everything else that goes into it, and you give them your best shot. Who's
really stood out to you here in the preseason that you're looking forward to seeing in live game action?
A little bit of everybody, to be honest with you. We've been battling some injuries and people have been out for a little bit, so some new people have got some opportunities to come in and step in. I said it before in our preseason, we got some of our returners with JC and Sarah who we're going to rely on pretty heavily. We added Alyssa, who I think is good, but any of our new people too with our returners, we've got a good mix of both that I think are going to contribute, and I'm just kind of excited to see where it's going to go here the first couple of weeks. People are going to get opportunities, and what they do with them is, what's going to kind of help us go down the stretch, and once we get into our conference and into the GLIAC.
You talked about Alyssa Hill. Comes back from Nagani, went to Bemidji State last year, last couple of years. Talk about her addition and how important it is for her to have all that game experience as you come in, and you don't replace a McKaylee Kuhn or Anna Ruud, but it's nice having someone with experience come and play for your team.
For sure. And obviously she brings in some size too with us, which helps a little bit on the inside. And she has that experience, but she is a very hard worker too, and she fits with what we're doing, both on the court and off the court. I think she's a great person who we brought in with not just experience, but just as a person too. Being local and from the area, it's always fun. You see all of her fans and all of her family that come out and support. It's just going to be, she adds so much more to just our program in general. But on the court too, I think she's going to be a little bit of an inside presence for us for sure.
What's your approach as a coach in the first couple weeks of the season, non-conference, that you're not getting too high or too low depending on what your record is, and you're more kind of getting better towards the GLIAC season? How do you approach the first month or so of the season?
We just take it, honestly, it's one game at a time, and I know we got 2 games back to back, but it's really focusing on our first win. You know, if we can get one, that's going to be awesome, and figuring out what we need to do. And right now we were just actually talking about, okay, like, who's going to be our starting 5 and how are we going to figure it out? And, you know, we are a little bit deeper than last year, so we're going to add a lot of pieces and people are going to have a lot of playing time. And so I think that's going to help us when we play back-to-back. People are going to have opportunities and you're going to hopefully keep your fresh legs. But at the same time, game speed is just a little bit different when it comes to practice and games. So we'll see what happens, but I'm just excited, and I think our team's excited just to get an actual game going again.
All right, Coach, going to Wisconsin Dells again this year. Let's talk about Wisconsin Dells and just a game stadium or gymnasium. How important is it for you guys to have games there, and really a lot of your team from the state of Wisconsin?
Yeah, nobody will come play us. So we don't really have a choice in the matter. We send out a lot of emails about scheduling, and getting another Division II opponent to agree to a home and home with us right now has been all but impossible. Minnesota Duluth and us have a home and home. I think for similar reasons, we both struggle to get those. And so that's where we have to get creative. And the best thing we've found is going to meet in the Dells on a neutral site has been really, really good for us. And a lot of family members get to see our team play. And we have a pretty good crowd there. And we get a neutral site game against some really good opponents who, to be fair, that drives a little more doable for everybody to meet there than it is. Some of those schools in our region are 12, 13 hours away. I don't necessarily blame them for not wanting to do a home and home. So this allows us to get in-region games against good quality opponents without having to, you know, just travel and play pure road games.
How has your team responded since Michigan State? It's been about a month. You've had a couple of scrimmages with your team. I guess where are they fitting in and gelling in areas with the way you run the basketball team?
Yeah, I think we've, you know, some mix of good and bad, and it's been, the thing with the Michigan State game was it started the season so early compared to normal, so this has been a long preseason because of that, and I think I like where we're at, but at the same time, we have to go play against real teams now to get better. So the question I have that I have no idea the answer to is what we've done up to this point enough that we'll be more ready than our opponents for this first weekend. And then I know that we're going to have massive strides that we'll take after the first weekend. It's just this first weekend, it always comes down to, you know, kind of some odd things, and how ready are we? We'll find out this weekend.
I guess to maybe take this time to tell us more about your team, what has stood out, you know, guys that you had come in, whether they're transfers or freshmen that are going to contribute. Just, you know, tell us more about what we can expect about your team this year.
Yeah, I think I'm excited about the new faces. I think it'll be a really new feel. Dylan, you know, we're hoping is right up there with the best players in the conference or the best player in the conference. That's our expectations and goals for him. He's really grown as a leader without Max around or Max around. It's clearly his team now, which has been good. I think Brian Parzik was, I thought, our best player 2 years ago before he got hurt. So I thought he was the best player on a team with both Maxes and Dylan, and then he, you know, has had some bad luck with injuries. His command and confidence is back, and he's really, really kind of taken the reins of the team again. So that's been really exciting, and, you know, he was our first big recruit, so selfishly I'm really happy that he looks back to being him. And then after that, it's, you know, a mix of some returners that have have increased roles or very similar roles, some transfers, and then a couple freshmen. Particularly like last year, we played Julian Smith at Missouri S&T in the second game of this weekend, and he had 20 some on us or something like that. And I was like, man, I wish we had a guy like that. Well, now we have him. So, it's exciting to have him. And, Gerald Gittens is another D2 transfer that, came in and has proven he can do it at this level, and he's been really good. So I'm excited to see when we put all these guys together on the same floor. There is that inherent awkwardness of we have 4 guys that were alpha players at their previous institutions as transfers. Every high school kid is going to be the alpha player at their high school. Mix in Dylan, who's an alpha player, and now all of a sudden there's a lot of guys that are used to being the main guy, and we have to get better playing without the ball in our hands. We have to mesh them. We've been working really hard on it, and I like where it's going, but the bright lights, everyone's got to remember now that they aren't the man, they're just one of the guys, and if we can do that, now all these individual brilliance can shine together. It'll be interesting. We will get there. Will it be this weekend? That's the fun part. We'll find out.
Let's talk about your bigs. You had Dudek that had a pretty good game against Michigan
Yep.
State. You had Privet, and you also have Lados. Let's talk about who plays when, where. Is it about matchups, or
Yeah.
who gets the starts with the bigs?
Yeah, I think they're all, they're all going to play, and we think they all can do some different things that'll help us. Sam Privet's probably been, the most consistent over the years of playing. He's in his third year playing a huge role. He started 2 years ago and was, our backup last year, and we think he's going to have a really nice season. And then Jackson is just so fun to watch, a guy that redshirted and then played a lot as a redshirt freshman. Then last year played, I know, less than he wanted to, and he's works, he's perfect, he does everything we ask. And to see him rewarded against Michigan State, if I could have picked someone, that's probably who I would have picked, because he deserves it. And I'm hoping that success, it's a funny thing, like, could it carry over? Could he have a second team all conference type season? Could he have a 12-point a game season because it started with that? I'm not ruling it out. He didn't play varsity much as a junior in high school, and I don't know any other D2 kid that's true of. And we just took him because we liked him. And I could see him similarly working his way into a really big role for us, because he just keeps showing up and doing everything right. So, and then Peter's, redshirted last year, had some moments of brilliance in practice. He's definitely the most upside. He's the biggest, he's the strongest. He's the most pure center of those guys physically, and then he probably has the most guard skills. It's just he's a redshirt freshman, and the other ones are redshirt juniors, and that's a pretty big difference at that spot.
I know you're a student of the game. You talked about you playing Michigan State, Ferris State playing Michigan State, and Lake State had a big win in Florida. What do you see out of those teams? Because obviously you guys picked 1, 2, and 3 in the conference for the preseason poll.
Coach Hedinga and Bronkma live in my head way too much in December, January, and February to even think about them right now. I'm happy I haven't thought about them too much. But yeah, obviously a ton of success, right? Lake State, 2 20-point wins in a great marquee setting. Ferris splits on theirs, but also had the Michigan State game. I really, truly, like, the respect level is high for not just those two, but those two in particular. I mean, every game against them has been, not just last year, but since I've been here, as long as we've been good enough, which we have been for the most part, those games are awesome. They're the worst, segments of my life are those games, because those two guys are so good, and I think we both are I think kind and civil with officials and make it easy to officiate those games with kind of our calm demeanors that we all have. So I think, overall, those have been really fun, and I hope, seeing those two teams, I hope we're good enough that we can have some more fun games against them, because if we're having fun games against them, that means we're going to have a pretty good season.
Does the offense run through Dylan? What's the identity for you guys offensively, and are you going to be figuring that out in the first couple weeks here?
Yeah, I would love to tell you. I wish I could lie and pretend I don't know. Instead, I actually don't know. No, it's going to be interesting. Dylan's such a unique player because he's awesome, but he is also not a point guard. He's not a center. He's not a shooter. He doesn't do one thing better than everyone. And that is also his biggest strength. He does everything really well. He blocks shots, he rebounds, he posts up, he slashes, he is a great passer, he can shoot it. So how you use a player like that, I don't know. If anyone out there has any suggestions, I'd love to hear them, because most the best players, especially at this level, aren't like that, because the guys like him don't end up at this level. They end up at the Division I level. We uniquely have a Division I talent that's on our team, but how we use them is always a little bit interesting, because you want to use them in all those ways, but each night, one of those things is usually his biggest advantage. So how do you go into a game not knowing where is his biggest advantage going to be, and then figure that out on the fly? It can be difficult, and the good news is he doesn't care at all about anything other than winning. So at least I never have to worry about him being frustrated that we didn't get him more shots. It's more, and I told our team this week, I said, Dylan doesn't care about how many shots he gets, but the rest of us better care about how many shots he gets, because it's on us to find him and put him in those spots, because he's not going to demand the ball, and that's why he's special, but we have to demand that he gets the ball ourselves, and a lot of that's me. And if we lose a game this year where he goes 4-6, and it's probably going to happen, and we lose, 1,000% of that blame is on me not getting the ball enough. And I have it on the top of my note card. Be nice to refs, get Dylan the ball.
In that order?
No.
Then last thing, same thing I asked Casey, just how do you make sure you guys don't get too high, too low here in the non-conference, knowing that you're trying to build up to the GLIAC season?
Yeah, we've been very hyper aware of that the last 2 years, because I knew we were good enough to win the league. I thought both years we were the best team in the league if we stayed healthy. Really, the last 3 years, I have no idea. Like, I don't know anything about this team because we're playing so many guys and they're all new, and I don't know what it looks like. Our style's different. The beauty of that is I have no clue on how to even focus on how good we are, because I don't know what that looks like or means. And I think with the transfers that we did bring in, those guys were at a lot of programs that didn't have a ton of success last year. So they can't focus on being good either, because they're used to being bad. So the focus for us right now is let's not lose this weekend. Like, let's not cause ourselves to lose. Let's not do the losing type things. And then, are we good enough to win? We'll find out. And if we can actively fight to not lose the game and do things right and play hard and all the other, focus process stuff, we're going to find out how good we are. And maybe 8 games in, if we're 7-1, we'll have to worry about being too high. And maybe 8 games in, if we're 1-7, we'll have to worry about being too low. But for now, I don't even think any of us have a clue what we are. So we almost don't know how to worry about that stuff. And I haven't coached a team like this in a while, and I'm kind of excited about that part of it.
Talking about how you balance the high of getting a great win to end your season, but being left out of the tournament.
Yeah.
How do you approach that when you talk to the team? Obviously,
For sure.
These guys that mean a ton to you.
Yeah. It's a tricky one. I think I look at it this way, because we had so many young players, so many new players that, okay, the fall season might be over, but we're 2.5 months into this team, this group of players, and so that's a really short amount of time to be together, to grow and to learn these things about college soccer. So although the fall maybe has ended, it's just into the next step of our team development process. If you compare us to maybe like the women's soccer team, those girls have been together 4 or 5 years. And you can see the trust, the understanding of college soccer, the wins, and being able to be, number one, consistent every game. And I think that's where our young players have to learn that it's consistency is the difference between, playing for the title and not being in the playoffs. And I think that's where we're balancing it. If you look at the stats, we've tripled the amount of wins we've had. We've scored more goals. We conceded less. We led the conference in shots and corner kicks. So from a statistical perspective, there's been massive progress. Obviously, we're disappointed we're not playing further, and I think the best part about that is our leadership and the team is hungry. Like, they're asking to train this week. They don't want to stop. So, yes, there's a disappointment, but there's a lot of positives to move forward with. It's a much, much different feeling than last offseason, where we knew that we needed to just wipe the board clear and start again. So, that's how we balance it. And I think we've got a really good group of hungry guys that can take this into the next step. But yeah, it was a disappointing weekend. I think Purdue is such a weird loss. Lose 3-0, but you outshoot them. Their goalkeeper had a world. He had made 8 saves. The first goal was very fluky. And we had to fight back from again, and that's really tough to do on the road. But for them to turn around and play the way they did on Sunday and just give everything against a perennial team, the defending champs, and to get the win the way they did, it was just a great way to end the season and show that this team, I'll bet, did not succeed in its ultimate goal of winning the championship. They did turn some heads and gave them a lot of confidence moving into the offseason. So,
kind of the story of your season, maybe a disappointment in the game on Friday and then turn it around on Sunday. Is that kind of how you felt about these guys all year? That they might go down, but they're going to come back up?
They always respond. Yeah, they always responded from a down game. I mean, you could look back at the first St. Cloud loss away. They come home and they beat the number 8 team in the country, Purdue, 3-1. So they've always responded to the disappointments, and I think that's a good sign because they care, they battle for each other, and they had fun on Sunday. And I think that's the biggest piece. We lost the fun part when we were struggling, and that when you're not having fun and you're not playing together, that's where little cracks come through. So yeah, the way the game ended, the goal was amazing, and the way they celebrated. I think the commentator from Parkside was like, hey, I hate to tell them, but their season's over. It looks like they won the Super Bowl, but that's how we need to play every game. Like it is the Super Bowl, because when we do that, that's the end result is a great win on the road against a perennial team. So they know they can do it. It's just, can they bring that same energy every game, every training session, every lifting session, every video session, to make sure that we don't have a season like we did this year. So,
John, is this kind of how it's supposed to be, where your game against Grand Valley in November has so much riding on it, and just how are you guys getting ready for this one?
Yeah, it's just how it's been the last few years. It's turned into a great rivalry and just a great opportunity to go down there and to play a quality game and quality soccer. And so it's definitely encouraging to see where the group is, to see them kind of fight through some adversity that we faced throughout the year and through the really, really tough schedule. It makes sense that we're on the road. I think 11 of our games are on the road and 7 are home. And so hopefully the schedule has led us to this point because of how much we have been on the road that we're accustomed to playing away. And it kind of just makes sense. I'm sure the feeling is probably mutual that it makes sense that it's us and Grand Valley again, and they're a very quality opponent that has a lot of good weapons. They have a lot of strengths in a lot of different areas, and so they're a very good team, and so fully expect it to be a very, very tough battle. So.
Well, last 2 games you outscored your opponents 10-0. In conference games, what have you seen that has kind of been unlocked, or what transpired the past 2 games to allow them to score that much and be so solid?
I think more so is just the freedom to kind of think independently and to read situations in the game and to make decisions in real time. I think Hannah Kestamo has been a good example of that. I think our wingers have been a really good example of that. I think we've made some slight adjustments that have allowed us to play a little bit differently, to get the ball, to switch the point of attack, and so that has helped us. And it's been great to relive those moments. I gotta give a massive kudos to what the department is doing this year in terms of media. Just being able to go online and to be able to look at the goals that are scored and to have those moments captured. That's where home field advantage starts from. Providing this environment, and what we've had this year and really the last 2 years, to have those clips available, to have that sense of pride of playing home, to have those clips to be relived forever online, and for the players to see those things and to send it to their family, to send it there to grandparents and everything else, to be able to relive those moments. Even I do it. I go home, and once I see them start to get posted, I rewatch them, and it's an amazing thing, and I think it's a massive recruiting tool to have here. It's just the environment that is created through our social media and marketing department it's amazing.
Bill Pistorius hit me up for Molly's header a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
That Grand Valley game in September, what do you remember about that one and how it shook out? And, are you expecting anything different now, like 6-7 weeks later, or?
Yeah, I think everything kind of changes a little bit just due to the circumstances, right? I think you see as time progresses and the matches mean a little bit more and teams start to really jockey for position, national tournament implication, all those things. You see teams play a little bit less out of the back, take a little bit less amount of risk, because the game just means so much more now. And so I think whatever it is, whatever we prepare them for, we have to also be able to adjust in real time and to be able to play our game. And I think that's the biggest thing that we are telling our players this week is we're focused on us, doing the things that we know it takes to be successful. We know when you're on the road, it's got to be gritty. And you got to be able to fight for one another in order to be successful on the road, no matter where you're playing. But I think primarily the message this week is we're focusing on what we got to do to be successful. And I think if we can do that, we can give ourselves at least an opportunity on Thursday to win the GLIAC.
Fatovic was just talking about your group playing together for so long at this point, a lot of them. I feel like Brooke Pietola is like a really good example of someone who's stuck it out and is a huge part of what you guys do. I mean, what can you say about what she's done so far this season and continues to do for you guys?
Yeah, back-to-back, GLIAC Offensive Player of the Week, and I think like what everyone sees is happening on Friday and Sundays, right? And I think the thing that sets Brooke apart from a lot of different players that I've coached to as well is there is no light training session for her. There's no recovery training session for her. There's no, hey, this is a lighter day. You know what I mean? We're gonna just take a little bit of a lighter tone today. It's always 100% from her. And so like she's accustomed to training at the highest level. And so when you have somebody like that is ultra competitive, but also a great leader and a great teammate, and that translates to the game. And I think the old saying is you play the way you practice, right? And so I think she's a true testament to that. She 110% takes the way that every single practice is like a game to her. There's never a day off. She is 100% ready to go and going to try to win each and every game. And if she doesn't, she's mad. She's 100% mad because of how things went down. And so like her competitiveness sets her apart. And really what it comes down to is that mentality of her ability to lead the group and her mentality to continue to fight and try and find ways to win. And then, when you have a player like that, it becomes contagious, right? Other players feed off that. And so we have a group that's been together for 4, 3, 5 years, and they come into the training environment and they automatically embrace those kind of things. And so like we've got a lot of great personalities on this team that's allowed us to be successful over the years. I mean, you gotta have the lighthearted guys that that make jokes. You gotta have the players that know how to calm people down a little bit. You gotta have the people like Brooke and Marla and Molly that do not stop at anything, that continue to fight nonstop. And then you gotta have the strong and silent types. You have all those things. It's a good recipe for success.